I'm going to show you some video clips and an audio tape, audio clip, so I hope this will work. But first of all, thank you to the conference team for including me in the program. I have called the title of my presentation The Relationship Between Tactile, Kinesthetic and Sound Experiences in Visual Arts. And I'm a visual artist. In this presentation, I will introduce the work I do with young, blind and visually impaired students from the IBIS Institute in Copenhagen, and how I find the implementation of art, poetry and sound within teaching to open up for other kind of reflections regarding identity and self-perception. Further on, I will talk about the research on blindness I carry out within my own visual practice by introducing haptic visuality as a term of touching with cinematic images in order to challenge the social representation of blindness. As a visual artist working with the notion of blindness, I investigate the bodily experience as a phenomenological reflection. My interests arise within the translation of the tactile world to the audiovisual and reverse as a language between seeing and non-seeing. The depiction of disability in the media plays a major role in molding the public perception of people living with blindness. For instance, the accessible visual material, documentary, movie, institutionalized material often approaches blindness with a focus on a lack or a defect of the bodily experience and on a marginalized disabled body, and at the same time seems to lack the perspective of sensory experiences within the blind body. I have to shortly mention that the Art Council in Denmark wants to implement the meeting with an artist, which is me, for instance, within a teaching context, and thereby support the collaboration between institutions, schools, artists, and students. So I applied for 2 projects with visually impaired students through the Art Council. So when I teach as an artist and not as a teacher, trained as a teacher. So working within teaching as a visual artist, I research how the implementation of art can affect the way people with visual impairment perceive their life, identity and existence in general. In order to open up for new reflections on their life, I aim towards the perception of body, sense and mind by introducing contemporary art and artists working within these fields. This is done either through translations from visual and performance-based artworks or through sound, audio works and podcasts. So I don't really have the skills of teaching tactile way yet. I have a slide which is 12 students from the IBIS standing in a group at the main station in Copenhagen in white t-shirts, and they're ready to do a performance, which was one of the results of one of my workshops. So back in December 2015, I did a workshop called Scratching the Surface. And the students made poems, sound art, tactile works, and this performance called Self-Defense. So they performed at the main station, where they have many people coming, and they did the performance 3 times. So they were singing and rapping as a part of a worldwide complaint choir concept. So you have the chance of complaining with humor, basically. So they questioned representation of the visually impaired body in youth cultures also, through a humoristic and ironic approaches. So I'm going to translate this, but the rap song is in Danish, so it might not sound like a rap song in English. Anyway, so what we did was the young ones did a lot of reflections with me, and we gave it to a Danish rapper, so he made it into a rap song. Martin Luther King and Mandela said that we were all equal. But even in the blind society, there tends to be a sharp hierarchy. The partially sighted took power easily, for when it's daylight, they have the overview and sleep with a night lamp switch on. And it is impossible to crack the code of love when we at the same time are overprotected in society. Without the ability to move freely, it feels like wearing 2 condoms at the same time. So my experience is that it came quite natural for the students to open up and reflect, especially after I introduced autobiographical artwork and artists dealing with body identity and self-image. So I kind of created a space for open discussions by scratching the surface of my life and their life in an equal relationship between teacher and student that was honest and mutual respect. In 2016, I did another workshop called Body Stories, and the visually impaired performed at a cultural center in Copenhagen with music, poems, songs, and projection. So this is a slide of a girl from Nepal, Anuja, and she stands outside. It's autumn, and she's dressed in a red and yellow national dress. So she did a poem. I filmed her outside, and the music was made from one of the students at the Ibis Institute who does music. And the song is called "I Can Feel What You Can See." And I hope this works now. Press play. Can I have some help? Oh, okay. Can you turn it up, please? Oh.
Although I'm physically disabled, I'm also able. Don't make me the part of fun. I can see the world by my own vision. If I get an opportunity to move on, I can move on my own. There is no difference between you and me. I can feel the things that you can see. Life is like a puzzle. To be successful, we all need to do a struggle. So, don't point on my weakness. Remember, weakness is the main key to success.
The next slide is the next slide is 2 images, which one is illustrating a screenshot of an app called Blindfo and a tactile map of the institute. So this project was also made for the Body Story project, and it was an audio walk with audio tracks placed at different locations at the institute. So we did, for instance, at the ceremonial hall with reflections on love, social arrangement, and companionship. So what I did was I asked the young ones questions about identity, and I recorded it and I made it into small audio tracks. And we kind of took over Blindfo, which is an app for information when you come to the institute. So when you came into the hallway, for instance, the app would say, how do you think it is for a visually sighted person to come into a room where they don't know what's in the room? And then you could go to SoundCloud and you could listen to the reflections one of the blind students have made. So the audio walk was presented to students from other classes with sight, and they did the audio walk to try to get an information about or feeling about how it is to live at an institution and to be visually impaired. So in this next chapter of my presentation, I will speak about my my artistic practice and my theoretical research on blindness. So the image shows a warm image of hands touching curtains, like orange curtain-ish. um, so many artists have approached blindness through the history of contemporary art. For instance, Guercino, Herman Slob, Sophie Calle, and Carmen Papalia. These works are important reflections on blindness, but none of them approaches blindness from a visual and aesthetic angle of embodiment. In my research, I want to unfold this bodily experience of the blind as a canal of phenomenologically experiences by fleshing out Merleau-Ponty's two dimension of the term flesh as a form of tactile experience and something that can be touched. So this is how I work with haptic visuality. So I try to create cinematic images that can be touched by sight, to say it in another way. So to try to present a more touchable approach of the sensual way of perceiving visual artworks and promote the studies of understanding blindness. So I'm gonna quote somebody called John Hull. So the experience of the blind knower who lives in a world of tactile and oral stimuli is concentrated upon touch and sound, which, although in theory accessible by sighted people, is seldom experienced by them with such intensity. That's John Hull, and he continues, "To be blind is to be a whole body seer. Perception is no longer specialized or located in a specific part of the body, but the whole body becomes an organ of perception." So this still image is from a work I did called House Without Windows. So here is an important view on the relationship between the visual viewer and the understanding of living with blindness. This is the haptic visuality I talked about. Laura Marx discussed the tactile relationship between the work of art and the viewer. She points out the mutual exchange between the two bodies, which is the film and the viewer, as a communication of desire through the act of touching. A film or video or painting or photograph may offer haptic images, while the term haptic visuality emphasized the viewer's inclination to perceive them. Is it possible to expand the notion of blindness by working on the visual image projection, by presenting it within the art space? So this next slide is from a work I did. It's called Romantic Notion of Blindness. And the way I work is that I work with documentary-based grip. So the actors in my work are amateurs acting as themselves on stage between real and performed. This work, Romantic Notion of Blindness, I work with Nina, and she's born blind, and she worked with poetry and music. And I asked her to write a song for this video regarding her bodily experience of the world. The image on the screen is from the video installation. It's a double screen or two split screens, and the first scene on the left is an almost still image of Nina with long blonde hair in a white dress, and she has small homemade dolls on her back. And this image was visualized after she told me about her childhood and her feeling of being left outside and nobody would understand her. And she would imagine that she had invisible friends. So I made these dolls at home, and I met up with Nina because she was gonna play the piano and sing her song. And I said to her, "Oh, I did these dolls as an image of your invisible friends." And she said, "Oh, that's weird. I have never imagined them having a shape." And then I was like, shit, because I'm visual and she's not. And then she touched them and she said, "Oh, they could look like this." So I was like, and on the other side, you see Nina performing in front of a piano, singing the songs about the limitation of being blind. So I will try to play. Oh, 5 minutes left. Shit. Shit. Please. Don't know what happened. Oh shit. This is not the film. This is the film. Oh yeah, but I have to play it. Can I see? I have to play 5 minutes in the song. Play it from one. Can you? Do you know? Oh, yeah, but can you see the timeline? Oh, you can't see the timeline? Sorry. No? Ah, shit.
She stared at more light. Eyes shut. She thought she saw pictured secrets that made she knew for sure that something wasn't right. Open up her eyes, smiling, that's just the same. She noticed that the world got all insane again. Through her teeth, she noticed that she always seemed to cry.
I have to stop. I'm really sorry because I need to you to hear this also. This is an audio piece I did where I asked blind people to describe their homes. So I'm gonna play this. So please close your eyes. The ones of you who can see. Oh, and I fucked it up again. Play. Shit. Der. Tryk der. Ja, okay. Ja. Tryk.
Liselotte Lilholm, 69 years old. I live in a 42 square meter apartment in Copenhagen. When you enter the hallway, there is a mat just outside my door. The reason for this mat is because it's so impersonal and cold if there's nothing outside one's door. I have 14 plants in the windowsill, and next to them I have vases, Russian dolls, a peanuts machine, and a posh teapot. I also have a cupboard that is 10.2 meters high, where there are duvets, pillows, and blankets for guests. I also have clothes in the big drawer of my dresser. Hats, gloves, 3 scarves that I have knitted myself. Then we come to a small drawer with socks, ankle socks, tights, and woolen socks. Such a wide range. I also have 4 suitcases with memo tapes. I have a small black and white television. I've had it for 20 years and it's only been broken once. In the window in the kitchen, I have all sorts of tins with tea, coffee, and various kinds of sugar, beans, rice, pasta, and other dried things. I could not for anything in the world do without these things, and nobody should interfere in what I have of different things in my home.
My name is Søren Høgh, and I was born in 1963. When you enter my apartment, you enter a small apartment, the type of home where everything can be reached within a few steps. The hallway is long and narrow with many coat racks on the right wall. It could almost look like it was me, the blind man, who hung them up without spiral level. But it's on purpose that the racks hang in various heights, to signal that in my home it's okay not to be perfect. My kitchen is, one could say, is impractically decorated like most men. Even though I'm single, I have a dishwasher, luxury but essential. My living room is cozy and masculine with leather furnitures, a dining table made of steel, and my guitars and paintings hanging on the wall. I have painted most of the paintings myself, and these add a nice and personal touch to my home.
0. Yeah. Sorry for speeding up. So I'm just going to say that a lot of my works are going to be are used in different exhibitions, and this Home Sweet Home is something ongoing. So the original audio tracks is 15 minutes long, and so far I have 6 different people living in small apartments in Copenhagen, describing their homes, and they're really nice audio pieces. And so you get I think you get an understanding of other things than visual perception. So, questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We have 1.5 minutes left for questions. Anyone who wants to put forward a question? Yes.
Is it possible to see this video with this girl somewhere?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really nice piece.
Where can we see it?
If you find me on my webpage, KristinaSteinbock.com, and you can email me, I can send you a link. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else? Is lunch calling? No more questions? Okay. Thank you so much. Once again, I'll present you with a small gift.